A millionaire in disguise delivers food to his own home, and what he hears about his family. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The weight of secrets hung heavy in the air, as strange murmurs filled the room, pulsating like a heartbeat. I stood there, trembling, my hands shaking as I carried the takeout bags, the aroma of sweet and sour clashing with the bitter silence. My heart raced, anticipation nipping at my heels. This wasn't just dinner. It was a reckoning wrapped in cardboard. Outside, the sun dipped low, casting long shadows that danced ominously against the walls. I peeked through the window, and there they were, my family, gathered in the living room, laughing. But the laughter felt hollow, almost unnatural. I could see the sharp sparkle in my brother's eyes, but it wasn't joy. It was something else, something lurking beneath that facade. Who were these people? I'd always thought I knew them. My parents were supportive, at least, they pretended to be. My sister had seemingly embraced every whim of theirs. But as I approached the door, that safe feeling shattered. I heard whispered apologies, hushed words that crackled like static. Did you hear? He's back, the one who disappeared, my mother's voice trembled, fear lacing every syllable. Gone. Someone was gone. My heart sank. My pulse quickened. I pressed my ear closer to the door, needing to know more. Had to keep it from him. He can't find out, not yet. My brother's voice cut through the air like a blade, leaving me gasping for breath. They were hiding something. Something huge. My thoughts spiraled. Who was this person? What had happened? The world felt like it was collapsing around me, the very ground beneath my feet unsteady. With a sudden rush of courage, I pushed the door open. A collective gasp erupted, their faces painted with shock. They turned, eyes wide, as I stood there, just a brother, a son, holding takeout bags like they were poises of doom. One moment too late, I realized I should have knocked first. In their eyes, I saw everything: the fear, the guilt, the swirling chaos of unspoken truths. My stomach knotted painfully. What had I just walked into? You're home, my mother whispered, tears glistening in her eyes, but her smile didn't reach them. I felt a chill run down my spine. There was something wrong, so wrong. In that moment, I knew my world was about to change forever. What had I unknowingly become a part of? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The moment hung in the air like a heavy fog, the silence both deafening and suffocating. I stood frozen at the threshold, the takeout bags slipping slowly from my grasp to the floor, the delicate containers rattling against the wood. My heart felt like it was lodged in my throat, a painful reminder of all the words left unsaid, the truths hidden just beneath the surface of our fractured family. What's going on? I finally managed to voice, the question tumbling out under the weight of their blank stares. My sister, usually so vibrant and full of life, looked away first, her fingers twisting into her sweater sleeve. It was a small act, but it felt monumental, as if her very gesture screamed of 1,000 secrets. My father, normally the anchor in our family, appeared suddenly fragile, leaning against the couch like it could absorb the shock of my presence. We didn't expect you back so soon," he stammered, offering a weak smile that shattered the illusion of a happy home. I looked from him to my mother, who quickly wiped a tear from her cheek, but the motion felt forced, rehearsed, as if she had been on the verge of sorrow long before I arrived. "There's something we need to talk about," my mother finally said, her voice trembling. My heart sank deeper. The way she spoke felt like an invitation into a storm. I hadn't anticipated the calm before an inevitable upheaval. "Who disappeared?" I pressed, desperate to pull the threads of this sudden darkness into daylight. "What are you hiding from me, please?" just sit down, my brother said, his tone laced with urgency. This isn't how we wanted this to happen. I couldn't comply. Instead, I clenched my fists at my sides, defiance sparking within me. A part of me wanted to demand answers right there, to shake the truth from their guarded faces. But I also felt a flicker of dread. What if the answers would tear the last remains of our family apart? Just tell me, I insisted, my voice echoing in the room thick with tension. As my mother opened her mouth, her face crumpled, the rawness of her emotions spilling forth like a dam breaking. Your cousin, Lucas, he's gone, Sam. He's gone missing. The world around me spun, and I staggered, grasping for something to hold on to. Lucas, the one person who had seen me for who I truly was. We had shared laughter, secrets, and dreams. He was my closest confidant. The news struck harder than any blow I had ever received. What do you mean he's missing? I croaked, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. I felt their gazes heavy upon me, heavy with pity, guilt, and something darker, something that swirled in the pit of my stomach. He disappeared last week, a few days before you came home, my father explained, his voice shaking. We didn't know how to tell you. We thought what? I interrupted, my voice rising. That I couldn't handle the truth? What else are you keeping from me? Enough. My mother burst, suddenly fierce, her face a mask of desperation. This isn't the time for anger. We're all scared, we're still trying to piece everything together. Lucas reached out to us just before what? My brother stepped forward, his brow furrowing with concern. We think he got involved with a bad crowd. There are rumors, Sam. Dangerous ones. He was trying to warn us about something, but now he's missing, I whispered, the reality crashing down around me like a tidal wave. Uncertainty seeped into the air, dark and thick, replacing any semblance of peace. And then, as if dimensional doors swung wide, the room blurred out of focus. I thought of Lucas, the subtle hints he dropped during our last conversation, something about someone watching him, a feeling of unease gnawing at him. Had he been trying to protect me, or was there more he hadn't said? A sudden rapping at the door jolted us back, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the fragile cocoon of our family. My heart raced, fear promising to splinter whatever little trust remained. Who is it? My mother called, her voice quaking. Delivery. The cheerful voice of a stranger floated through the door, an incongruous note against the backdrop of our turmoil. I exchanged a look with my brother, the flicker of something unspoken igniting between us. With the air thick with uncertainty, I turned to the door and slowly pulled it open. Outside stood a young man, the dopey grin of a delivery driver frozen in expectation. But behind him, peering over his shoulder, was a figure cloaked in shadow. My breath caught in my throat as recognition hit. There, lurking on the fringes, was Lucas' silhouette, his presence igniting a complex mix of relief and alarm. Why was he here? Sam, he called out. I need your help. And just like that, the layers of our reality twisted again, the edges of our already frayed family ties threatening to unravel as secrets spilled out into the open, waiting to engulf us all. The moment froze in time, and the very air around us thickened with uncertainty. Lucas stood in the doorway, his features half hidden in shadow, the light of the evening sun barely illuminating his anguished face. My heart pounded as I tried to decipher the mixture of fear and urgency in his voice. Sam. I need your help. His words hung heavy in the stillness, crackling with a sense of foreboding that made every hair on my arm stand on end. I glanced back at my family, their faces a collage of shock and disbelief, and then back to him, a fragile thread connecting the fabric of my world that was rapidly coming undone. Lucas, I breathed, the name spilling from my lips like a prayer. I stepped forward, but hesitation rooted my feet to the ground. What could he possibly be involved in that warranted such fear? The warnings from my family echoed in my mind, wrapping around me like a noose. What's going on? He glanced behind him, a quick, nervous motion that sent a jolt through me. Not here. Please, we need to talk somewhere private. There was a shimmer of desperation in his eyes, and for all my dread, a flicker of hope ignited within me. I stepped aside, and he slipped into the house, his presence unearthing a myriad of emotions I didn't know I could still feel. As if this day couldn't get any more complicated, my brother muttered, slipping his hand into his pocket as if preparing for some conflict that was brewing just beneath the surface. My family still lingered in the room as though they were spectators in a play they had never wanted to see unfold. My mother's eyes darted between me and Lucas, a deep well of uncertainty pooling within them, while my father clenched and unclenched his fists, his quiet strength seeming to chip away at the fragile foundation of our family. "Can we talk in the kitchen?" I suggested softly, gesturing toward the room that often symbolized warmth and comfort. Lucas nodded, though his expression remained troubled. I led him down the hall, each step reverberating with the trepidation of impending revelations. As I closed the door behind us, the weight of silence enveloped us. I leaned against the counter, trying to draw strength from the sturdy old wood, as Lucas turned to face me. The air was thick with unsaid words, a tension that coiled between us as tightly as a spring. "What's happened? Why are you here?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, but the tremor betrayed my anxiety. He ran a hand through his disheveled hair, his gaze darting around the kitchen, as if searching for answers in its familiar corners. "I didn't want to drag you into this, Sam, but I think I've gotten myself into something dangerous. People are looking for me." "Looking for you? Lucas, what did you do?" Panic clawed at my throat, preventing me from breathing properly. He hesitated, his jaw tightening. "It's hard to explain, but I got involved with the wrong crowd. They didn't like the way I was talking to the police about some things I overheard." His voice broke, fear etched deeply into every line of his face. Things I shouldn't have heard. My thoughts raced. What could he possibly have heard that was so dangerous? I entwined my fingers tightly together as I tried to piece together the fragments of Lucas' story. "What do you mean? What things?" "Lucas, you're scaring me. People are dealing with stuff they shouldn't be involved in. I thought I could help, but now I might just be making it worse." His eyes bore into mine, desperation and guilt swirling within them. "Sam, I need to know I can trust you. If I give you this information it could put you in danger too. But I need your help. We need to find out who's behind this." The corners of my mouth trembled at the weight of his plea. A part of me wanted to pull away, to shield myself from the chaos that now surrounded us, but another part, the part that had been lost and searching for a connection, yearned to dive into the storm with him. I had to help. "I'll do it, Lucas. I don't care what danger it brings. I just want you safe." He nodded, relief washing over his face momentarily, but it was quickly replaced by something darker. "There's one more thing, Sam." The kitchen felt smaller, suffocating as he leaned closer, whispering, "They might not just be looking for me. They know about you. They know about all of us." A cold rush of horror shot through me. My family caught up in a web of danger that had started with Lucas. Fear coiled around my ribs, tightening its grip. "What? How could they possibly know?" I stammered, uncertainty coursing through my veins like ice. Before he could reply, the door to the kitchen swung open, and my mother's voice rang out with urgency. "We need to decide what to do next. There's someone at the door asking questions about you, Lucas." The room shifted from alarming to chaotic in an instant, and I felt my stomach drop. The weight of anxiety settled heavily on my chest, unraveling, spiraling in every direction. Lucas and I exchanged a shared look of panic before the sound of hurried footsteps rang out in the hall. The urgency intensified. There was no going back now. A web of questions spun wildly in my mind, as the edges of my reality began to blur. Could we outmaneuver whatever had been unleashed upon us? How deep did this danger run? And then, like a punch to the gut, I thought about my family, their faces slipping into danger through every word spoken, every action taken. "Lucas, we have to go," I urged, grabbing his wrist, unsure of how much time we had left. Hope's flicker still lingered, but in the face of this newfound chaos, it was rapidly diminishing. As we dashed through the kitchen doorway, I caught one glimpse back at my family. The tension written across their faces mirrored my own fear. This was only the beginning of a battle I hadn't prepared for, but I was willing to fight with Lucas by my side and the shadows of our secrets trailing closely behind us. My heart raced as Lucas and I bolted through the hallway, urgency punctuating each step. My family's concerned faces blurred behind us, the ambience of our once safe home crumbling into chaos. I guided Lucas towards the back door, hoping for an escape, yet the uncertainty of what awaited us outside weighed heavily on my shoulders. Just as we reached the exit, the muffled voice of a man resonated through the house, shouting my name amid the frenzied commotion. It was too late to hesitate, fear propelled us forward. I flung the door open, and the cool evening air smacked me like a gust of reality. The backyard was a patchwork of shadow and light, the golden hues of sunset casting eerie silhouettes against the fence. Lucas and I stumbled into the twilight, the thrill of freedom threaded with anxiety. Where do we go? I panted, glancing over my shoulder as if the darkness itself might consume us. Follow me. He grabbed my hand, leading me toward the thicket of trees bordering my family's property. As we ducked beneath the low-hanging branches, twigs snagged at my clothes, but I pushed through, adrenaline keeping us swift and silent. We reached a clearing that opened up to an old, abandoned shed, its weathered wood and rusty hinges barely recognizable against the encroaching night. Lucas stopped abruptly, his breath coming in quick, shallow bursts. We can hide in there until it's safe. I nodded, unsure but feeling the weight of his presence. As we entered the darkened shed, the air carried the stale scent of dust and memories. Our surroundings dimmed as Lucas pulled the door closed, leaving only the faintest sliver of light slipping through the cracks. I can't believe this is happening, I murmured, huddling against a wall as we sat on the wooden floor, heartbeats thrumming in synchrony. What do they want with you? With us, Lucas rubbed his temples, a look of concentration and anguish etched on his features. It's complicated, he whispered, almost as if saying the words aloud would shatter whatever tenuous grip he had on control. But I overheard them talking about your family. They've been watching you. The things they said, it was about secrets hidden deep. My pulse quickened, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. Secrets? The word echoed in the silence, heavy with implications, things from the past, your father, his connections. It goes deeper than I realized. They think your family is involved in something bigger, something that threatens their operation. An oppressive silence settled like a weight around us, and my mind began to spiral. Could my family really be entwined in something criminal? My father's steady demeanor flashed before my eyes, questions building like tidal waves. But I know my dad, Lucas. He would never. Sam. He grasped my shoulders, pulling me back to reality. I don't know all the details, but we need to figure out what they're after before it's too late. They're not just watching. They're hunting. A moment of clarity broke through my panic. We have to warn them. We can't let them. There's no time for that. He interrupted sharply, his voice urgent. If they find your family first, we won't be able to protect them. We need to find out who's behind this. I have a contact, someone who might know more. What contact? The desperation in my voice drowned out the rational thoughts clawing at the fringes of my mind. A friend from that crowd. He's scared, but it's worth the risk. He might be able to tell us everything, Lucas said, determination flickering within his eyes despite the fear cloaking us. Before I could respond, a muffled thump outside the shed caught our attention, and we both froze, straining to listen. Heavy footsteps approached, each sound echoing ominously. The air shifted as dread enveloped us once more. The potential danger loomed just beyond the thin walls, the shadows dancing menacingly in the corners of the shed. Stay quiet, Lucas hissed, his body tense as we pressed flat against the wood, the warmth of his presence a frail barrier against the terror creeping closer. As the footsteps grew louder, my thoughts rushed to the faces of my family. Were they in danger right now? The very idea twisted like a knife in my gut, awakening a fierce need to protect them, yet here we were, cowering in silence. Then, the door to the shed rattled as a heavy hand tried to force it open. My heart plummeted further, a rush of anxiety threatening to swallow me whole. Another gust of wind rustled through the trees, carrying with it a low voice that sent chills racing down my spine. I know you're in there, Lucas. We're not going to hurt you, the voice called out, cloaked in a sinister gentleness. But there are people who would do anything to get their hands on what you know, including hurting the ones you love. Lucas' grip tightened on my hand, and panic coursed through me. What do we do? Trust me, he whispered, determination flickering like a flame, even in the face of the encroaching darkness. I could barely breathe as I felt the walls of my world closing in, suffocating in uncertainty. But all I knew was that we couldn't afford to give in to Finite now. not when so much was at stake. The presence of danger loomed larger than life, and with a single glance, we knew that this was just the beginning of a much darker ordeal. But as the dark figure outside continued calling for Lucas, I felt an unexpected surge of courage. A hidden resolve formed deep within. Perhaps the way forward lay not in hiding but in confronting the truths we were running from, and despite everything, hope flickered inside me, promising that somehow, we would weather this storm together. As Lucas leaned closer, his breath swift and shaky, a shocking thought crashed over me. In this moment of chaos, maybe we weren't just fighting for survival, we were stepping into a greater destiny neither of us had predicted. The shadow beyond the door lingered, an unsettling presence weaving through the threads of our collective fear like a dark tapestry. As the figure shifted, the voices grew louder, rich with meaning yet cloaked in ambiguity. My heart raced, each beat echoing the dread and hope intertwining within me. "Lucas," I whispered, pulling him closer, the fragility of our reality felt in the minutiae of our breaths. "Do you think he really means us no harm?" "Most likely he's lying," Lucas replied under his breath, eyes narrowed, scrutinizing the door as another round of frantic knocks reverberated through the air. "Keep quiet," but the voice continued, a disquieting melody that curled around the very essence of my fear. "We just need to talk, Lucas. There's something you need to hear." With every hesitant word, the stranger painted a picture of grim inevitability, and I felt something dark and sinister take root within the confines of my chest. The man outside knew our names, knew our secrets. I strained to listen, the walls of the shed closing in tighter, as Lucas' grip reassured me even amidst the growing chaos. "What do you know?" Lucas finally shouted, his anger rising to meet the urgency of the moment. "What do you want from me?" The figure's voice dropped lower, an undertone of familiarity lacing the words. "You don't understand. This is about much more than just you. It's about your family's legacy. Their past has come back to haunt them, and it won't stop until we've unearthed the truth, the truth." The word echoed in my mind like a distant bell tolling doom. What legacy? What truths had been hidden from me all my life? I squeezed Lucas' hand tighter, feeling the pulse of my own heart threatening to drown out everything else. The door rattled again, and I cringed, expecting the timber to splinter beneath the weight of the man pressing against it. But just as abruptly as the chaos had erupted, the man stepped back, allowing silence a moment to flow between us like a temporary reprieve. "Lucas, if you want to protect your loved ones, you must come with me," he said, his voice softening, the rough edges rounding into something almost vulnerable. "They're closer than you think." For a single breath, the world outside paused, but my mind thundered with questions, longings, and worries. What does that even mean? I breathed, my heart colliding with the storm of uncertainty swirling around us. "I can't explain everything right now, but trust me. I know your father, and I know the choices he made. The people he associated with." The voice trailed off, an intangible sadness underscoring the urgency. "But if you stay hidden, you risk losing more than just your family. There are darker forces at play, and the past isn't done with you yet." Time stretched, weaving moments into threads of despair, and yet, amidst my trepidation, a flicker of curiosity ignited a burning desire for understanding. I glanced at Lucas, searching for a flicker of mutual resolve in his storm-tossed eyes. I saw a mix of fear and the same unyielding need to uncover the truth gripping us both. "What if we don't have a choice?" I murmured, my voice shaking. "What if hiding only brings more danger? We need to decide, and we can't waste time." Lucas faced the door, a grim determination setting his jaw. "If we're going to confront whatever this is, we need to be ready." As I contemplated our next move, I felt a glimmer of hope warring against the shadows that swirled around us. Maybe uncovering the pieces of the past wouldn't just save us, it could bind Lucas and me together more tightly than the impending darkness threatening to consume us. Then, suddenly, the door groaned beneath the weight of the man's body as it lurched open with unexpected ease. The sliver of light flooded in, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. The man's face emerged from the shadows, startling me into silence. His expression held both urgency and hesitation, a reflection of the fear emanating from within the dim corners of the shed. He stepped forward slightly, offering a glimpse of recognition, and his words were clipped, quick, neither allowing room for distrust nor elaboration. "Lucas, just listen to me," he implored, his eyes darting around as if sensing danger lurking just outside the fragile sanctuary of the shed. "You have to come with me, now. I can't keep you safe here." An overwhelming swirl of emotions threatened to drown me. Could I trust him? Or would this be the moment we willingly stepped into a much darker reality than we had fathomed? Before Lucas could respond, a flash of movement caught my eye and froze my breath. Emerging from the dense woods was a group of figures, their silhouettes stark against the dwindling light. They moved with purpose, a menacing choreography echoing the danger that pulsed in the air. "Get down!" Lucas yelled, pulling me tightly against the wall as the man at the door stepped back, uncertainty flashing across his face. Now, the hideaway that had felt like our sanctuary suddenly transformed into a precarious Kajia battlefield. As my heart thundered in my chest, a shocking realization dawned on me. Our past was no longer just a haunting, it had morphed into an intricate scheme of deception, and I was standing at the very brink between safety and extinction, poised on the edge of a truth more horrifying than I could have ever anticipated. Hope flickered yet again, a delicate promise buried beneath fear. As Lucas breathed heavily by my side, a knowing exchange tethered our souls. We were not merely surviving, we were stepping into a destiny fraught with revelation and peril. Together, we had to unearth the secrets that bound our families, for the shadows were never as far away as we had hoped. And thus, as that group of figures approached, I realized that the choices we made would become the forging fire of our future. With a final glance at Lucas, I understood we were no longer just hunting for survival, we were diving headfirst into the abyss of our intertwined fates, with every heartbeat echoing a trepidation of what lay ahead. The air was thick with the scent of pine and the acrid tang of impending danger. I pressed my back firmly against the wall, heart pounding as I tried to make sense of the gravity of the moment. The figures advancing toward the shed moved quietly, stealthily, their intentions unspoken yet palpably menacing. Beside me, Lucas took a deep, ragged breath. The tension was nearly suffocating. "Who are they?" I barely managed to whisper, my throat dry with fear. "That I don't know, but they're not here for tea," Lucas replied, keeping his voice low yet filled with urgency. The stranger who had opened the door was retreating further back, almost as if had become a shadow himself, blending into the dark corners of the shed, analyzing the encroaching figures with a startled intensity. That I glanced toward the door, where the fading light revealed hints of their faces, hard, implacable silhouettes carved from shadows. My mind raced, desperately grappling with the knowledge we had just uncovered. The man had hinted at a legacy, a haunting past. Were these figures a part of it? Was my family's history intertwined with this gathering storm? The lead figure stopped just before the tree line, briefly turning back to the others, something glinting in their hand. A knife? A weapon? It was the sight that fueled my terror. Just a few yards away, two others peeled off to flank the shed, their intentions unreadable. "Lucas," I breathed, panic edging into my voice. "What are we going to do?" "Keep quiet," he hissed, his voice trembling. It was a command that felt so desperate it clawed at the very fabric of my resolve. As we huddled in our makeshift refuge, the world outside distorted into frightening echoes, the rustling of leaves, the cadence of heavy footsteps crunching on the underbrush, and the slow, agonizing tick of time that seemed to stretch like an unsung melody nearing its crescendo. But amidst the din of my scattered thoughts, something peculiar emerged. A quiet strength blossomed from within me. Fear was meeting determination. I might not know how deep my family's secrets ran, but I was tired of hiding. Whatever lurked outside this shed, whether friend or foe, I had the right to confront it. Before I could voice my thoughts, a commotion erupted. One of the figures in front had produced a flashlight, its beam slicing through the twilight. My breath staggered as they directed it toward the shed. "Lucas, they're looking for us," I whispered, feeling a knot of dread coil tighter in my stomach. He turned, a flicker of uncertainty flashing across his features. "We have to distract them, buy ourselves some time to figure this out." His gaze darted to the tools lining the wall of the shed, a plan igniting in his eyes. "On my count, you make noise and it'll slip out the back. No. I shook my head, gripping his arm to steady myself against the tide of despair dragging me down. "We can't separate." "What if there's no other choice?" he interjected, his voice rough but urgent. "We can't let them find you. If they're connected to your family." I could hear the implication in his sentence, the jagged edges of his uncertainty pouring into my veins. Time was running low. The flashlight beam flickered, the shapes shifting as they drew closer, and a single question loomed like a damning specter. Who were these figures, and what exactly were they willing to do to uncover our hidden truths? Lucas shifted, readying himself as I squeezed his hand for one last moment. "You promise you'll be careful?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Always." With that unbreakable vow echoing between us, I felt the weight of our shared fears, hopes, and futures pressing down upon my chest. I could hear voices now, gruff and low, whispering sharply. They were close, too close. As Lucas slipped out the back, my heart raced not just with fear, but with the realization that the door was ajar, freedoms were waiting, and shadows were weaving their way into our story. Hearts pounding, lungs filling with the urgency of the moment, I raised my voice to fill the space with sound. I grabbed an empty metal bucket and banged it against a wooden crate, a clamor breaking the stillness, a potential decoy, a sacrifice in the quest for survival. "Hey! Over here!" I shouted, the sound reverberating into the night. A thrill of desperation threaded through me as I prayed it would buy Lucas the precious seconds he needed. The figures ahead shifted, startled at the noise. "Did you hear that?" One of them snapped, voice hard like steel. That I held my breath, a storm of emotions surging within, praying they'd be drawn away. But in that moment, something within me trembled with concern for Lucas. As I quickly retreated further into the shed's darkness, I couldn't shake the vivid imagery of his silhouette slipping into the unknown, the dangers that lay just beyond our fragile sanctuary. The clamor of my makeshift distraction seemed to buy me time, but I had no clue how long it would last. Each second felt like an eternity as uncertainty clung to me like a shroud. Suddenly, through the chaos, an unexpected sound broke free. Footsteps, but not from the figures I was trying to evade. It was Lucas. Instinctively, I snapped my head towards the entryway just as he re-emerged, breathlessly bold yet clearly shaken. "What happened?" I asked desperately, scanning his face for answers, but before he could respond, there was a heavy thud behind us, the door swinging shut again, sealing us inside. "Now, we're together, and we'll face whatever is coming," Lucas whispered, though the urgency in his eyes revealed that the danger was far from over. And then came the sound that sent icy dread spiraling through me, a low growl, deep and resonant, echoing from outside where the group of figures remained. Something larger than either of us seemed to be drawing near, and as the weight of our shared fears pressed upon us, I grasped at the fragments of hope still flickering in the corners of my heart. But the dawning realization surged through me like a wave. The truth was darker than either of us could have anticipated, and we were willingly racing toward the eye of this unrelenting storm. The darkness closed in around Lucas and me as the growl reverberated, a sound that seemed primal and foreboding. I held my breath, feeling the tension weave through the air, laced with our shared understanding that whatever was on the other side of the shed was more than just a threat. It was a reckoning waiting to unfold. "What did you see?" I demanded, urgency pushing my voice above the ominous growls. Lucas' gaze flickered with layers of unspoken communication. "Nothing I couldn't handle," he said, though the tremor in his voice betrayed him. There were only two of them. They didn't notice me, but I think they're waiting for something. Or someone." My mind raced to connect dots I wasn't ready to comprehend. "What if they're not alone?" "I don't know," he replied, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "But we need a plan. We can't stay here." With that, the quiet of the shed thickened around us, encasing us in a bubble of dread mixed with fleeting hope. The growling continued, punctuated by the unease that permeated the air. We needed to act before whatever it was decided to breach our sanctuary. Lucas nodded toward the back. "We can take the exit that leads out toward the trees. It's our best shot." That I studied his face, weighing the risks. Outside, the murmurs of the encroaching figures intensified, spurring a flicker of bravery within me. "If we go out there, we might run straight into them. Or we might find a way out," Lucas countered. "We can't just sit and wait for them to make their move." We were trapped in a dance of uncertainty, united by the weight of secrets that wrapped around us like chains. But somewhere inside me, a fragmented voice urged me to trust our instincts, to embrace the unknown. As we slipped toward the back exit, my heart thundered, reverberating through my entire being, the echoes of my family's legacy, their hidden truths pressing heavily on my shoulders. The shed creaked underfoot, a reminder of its age, of the memories it held within its worn walls. Suddenly, the growl escalated, morphing into a bark that sounded alarmingly close. Fear wrapped around my throat, but it was Lucas' grip on my hand that steadied me, anchoring me to the moment. "Stay close," he urged, eyes pinned on the door as if willing it to grant us safe passage. Noticing the flashlight beam flicker across the shed's rear, I hesitated, the shadow of danger creeping back into my mind. The figures who had tried to escape were too well organized that it felt as if they had anticipated our every move. "Now," he breathed, and we pushed forward together, slipping out the back like wisps of smoke escaping a flame that we stumbled into the cool night air, the tang of pine mingling with an undercurrent of something foreboding. The trees loomed like ancient sentinels, their shadows stretching long across the forest floor. I could hardly believe we had made it outside, but there was no time to revel in our small victory. The growling resumed, now more insistent. "Lucas, we need to keep moving," I whispered urgently, noticing movement from within the tree line ahead. As we darted into the embrace of the trees, every instinct screamed at us to run, but then I caught glimpses of dark figures weaving through the branches, their intentions unmistakable. They were searching. "Stop!" One of the voices rang out sharply, their command echoing through the woods. That I instinctively clutched Lucas' arm, tension mounting between us. We crouched behind a thick trunk, hearts racing as the shadows shifted and conversations muffled into chaos. "Where are they?" a voice demanded, tinged with frustration. "I thought I heard something," another replied, panicked. "They have to be nearby. We can't let them get away." My mind raced, piecing together fragments of the unknown, desperation clawing at my sanity. "Lucas, we need to find out who they are and what they want," I spoke urgently, my voice barely a whisper as I leaned close to him. "Then we need to split up again," he said, determination flashing in his eyes. "You go around to the left, keep quiet. I'll check towards the right." "No. Lucas, I can't leave you," I protested, the weight of our shared struggle crashing onto my chest as he cupped my face gently, forcing me to meet his gaze. "You can. And you must. If we're ever going to find out the truth, we need to be smart about this." The gravity of his words settled in, deepening my resolve. I knew that staying together increased the risk of being caught. "Fine," I relented, just enough bravery to push me onward. But my heart trembled at the thought of losing sight of him. "We meet back here in 10. No more than that. 10 minutes. "Well, be fine," he said, and though the declaration felt more fragile than I wanted, I nodded, burying my fears deep down. As I crept away from him, shadows sinking beneath the tree's canopy, an overwhelming flood of emotions washed over me, anxiety mixing with hope intertwining in an unpredictable dance. I threaded my way quietly through the dense underbrush, longing to discover why this legacy was beckoning us, urging us into confrontation, into danger. Suddenly, I froze, a frisson of realization jolting through me. I could hear voices, not far in the clearing ahead. I strained to understand, heart pounding in my ears, as a breakthrough moment approached. "That we need to find her. She's the key," one voice stated, laden with an urgency that filled the cool air around me. "Her." The word struck me like a whistle in the dark, the hidden reference sparking a million questions. Who were they looking for? And was it someone I could possibly know? Before I could process the implications, I spotted Lucas moving stealthily near the edge of the clearing, straining to hear what they were saying. I held my breath, the intensity of this moment making time feel elastic. Would I hear the truth that had eluded me for so long? Or would we stumble into a reality too painful to bear? And then, just as a sliver of calculated hope blossomed in my chest, a rustling erupted behind me. I spun around, the primal instinct to flee momentarily eclipsed by the icy grip of dread. What had I unleashed? A figure emerged from the shadows, hulking, dark, and unstoppable. Our unforgiving past lay behind it, clawing its way to unearth our fates tangled together even more dangerously than before. The figure stepped forward, its outline shifting in the dim light, and my breath hitched in my throat as I struggled to comprehend what I was seeing. The aura surrounding the looming shape felt familiar, laced with viscous undertones of danger and loss. It moved oddly, shifting between shadow and light, as if its very essence was tainted with the ghosts of our lineage. "Who are you?" I demanded, mustering whatever courage I had left. My voice came out steadier than I felt, each syllable a weapon against the crawling dread that threatened to swallow me whole. The creature paused, a moment of stillness amidst the chaotic rustle of the underbrush. You don't recognize me, do you? The voice was gravelly but carried an unexpected tenderness, reverberating uneasily through the air. The shadows shifted, revealing a face I thought I could never see again. The world around me imploded, collision of past and present avalanched my mind. Mom? The words slipped from my lips, a stare of disbelief contorting my features. She chuckled darkly, a sound imbued with an irony that stung. I suppose that's one way to greet your long-lost mother. Her eyes darted around as if assessing the lurking danger, the people who searched for me and Lucas. Beneath the years of longing, resentment surged inside me, clashing violently against the threadbare hope that knotted my heart. How? Why are you here? Each question was a brushstroke upon my confusion-laden canvas, trying desperately to recreate the picture of our shared past. I am here because of you, Maya, she whispered earnestly, shifting closer. They've come for you, for us. Suddenly, the truth of her words hit like a tidal wave. She had been meticulously hidden away, a casualty of our family's turbulent history. You mean the people searching? They're looking for you? I couldn't wrap my mind around it. Was she a reclaiming relic or simply another pawn in an unforgiving game? Yes. And I can't let them find you. Not now. Her voice was urgent, laced with an element of fear I had never witnessed in her demeanor before. In that moment, 1,000 memories flooded back, every story, every whispered truth, every lie that masked our existence blurring into incoherence. Why did you leave? Why did you let me think? My voice wavered as I struggled against the tidal wave of emotions crashing over me. Because they forced my hand, Maya. I thought I could protect you if you didn't know the truth. Her expression grew frantic as she glanced around, sensing the danger narrowing in. But now I see that ignorance is a far worse fate. A sound echoed through the trees, unmistakable, Lucas' voice, calling my name in the unsettling dark. My heart thudded painfully, each beat reminding me of our unspeakable bond, of all the truths we had unearthed together. Mom, I have to find him, I stammered, the urgency overwhelming me. Not yet. She hissed, panic dancing in her eyes. If they find him, they will find you as well. You have to trust that this isn't over yet. A chilling realization crept into my veins as shadows flickered around us. The haunting growls from moments prior were now palpable, close enough to pierce the fragile fabric of our existence. What did you do to keep them at bay? I asked desperately, grappling with the surging need for answers. I made a choice, one that might come with consequences, she responded, her gaze wary and distant. But it keeps you alive, Maya. Keep moving. The tremors of words laced with sacrifice sent shockwaves through me. I knew then this wasn't just about protecting ourselves, it was about the relentless cycle of survival inherent in our bloodline. Outside, I could hear the muffled voices getting closer, determined footsteps pressing through the underbrush, and every inch of my being screamed to reunite with Lucas. We have to move now, I insisted, reaching for her hand. But she hesitated, emotions dancing behind her guarded expression. It's not safe for you here. If you're caught, the only place I feel safe is with you and Lucas, I interrupted, fighting the notion of running from my past when it had just materialized in flesh and bone before me. With every challenge ahead, the pull between kinship and fear tugged mercilessly at the chords of my heart. Fine, but keep low, she affirmed, finally conceding as she intertwined our fingers, her warmth anchoring me amid the shadows threatening to engulf us. Just then, a sharp rustling startled us, the familiar growl escalating, no longer mere whispers among the woods but a foreboding roar echoing off the bark. I felt her pulse quickening as the air turned electric, bristling with unstable energy. Her eyes darted back toward the distance that Lucas had disappeared into, panic evident in her gaze. In that instant, the alarming realization gnawed at me. Mom, what aren't you telling me? Who are they really? But the question hung for only an instant, a mere second before reality fractured. Suddenly, a gruesome scream pierced the night air. It wasn't just a cry, it was raw and shattered, sending adrenaline racing through my veins. Lucas! Come on! I urged her, and we bolted deeper into the shadows of the trees, hearts pounding in unison, entwined by desperation and a lingering truth poised to cascade around us. As the shadows loomed ever closer, we dashed through the darkness, clinging to one another in a fragile truce, vulnerability binding us. Voices echoed behind us, threatening to unravel our tenuous bond, leaving us spiraling deeper into the unknown, and as we sprinted through a cluster of trees, something inside me snapped with urgency, a revelation waiting to burst forth into the violence of the truth. The hunt was no longer about survival but about reclaiming what was lost. Behind me, the familiar echo of my name being called trailed off like a dream being shattered. Lucas. I screamed, straining to hear anything from the unseen world beyond. A part of me feared what I might find, but another flickering ember cautioned me to keep pressing on. Only when the sharp clang of metal against metal rang through the trees did I realize the hunter had become the hunted. And lingering in the twilight was the heaviness of a secret, the dawning truth that awaited us at the journey's end, threatening to change the course of our lives forever. With determination coursing through my veins, I rushed forward into the unknown, hoping against hope that the light of love could survive even in the darkest moments. The night, however, had its own cruel designs, and as I stepped into the clearing, horror awaited me just beneath the surface. The clearing opened up like a breath of fresh air, a deceptive sanctuary that promised respite from the chaos thrumming behind us. I paused for a heartbeat, scanning the terrain for any sign of Lucas, the fervor in my chest battling against despair. It felt eerily serene, as if the chaos of the world had coiled tighter beyond the treeline, leaving this space untouched. "Mom," I breathed, glancing back at her, where her eyes glimmered with a mix of hope and dread. "We have to find him. He needs me." With a flicker of resolve, I turned towards a narrow path weaving through the trellises of trees beyond, each step slicing through the silence that sang of uncertainty. Lucas. The sound of his name echoed back to me, a reminder of our bond painted in shades of struggle and love. "Wait," my mother urged softly, tugging at the hem of my sleeve as she stepped closer. "We can't rush into this. If they're close behind." Her voice trailed off, laden with a poignant weight that seemed to smother the night. I shook my head, impatience igniting my thoughts. "No, if we don't act now." Suddenly, the distant sound of scuffling broke through the stillness, sharp and frantic. My stomach twisted as adrenaline spiked. There was no mistaking the urgency in those sounds. They were coming from Lucas. "Stay here," I whispered, though my own words felt feeble against the backdrop of this impending doom. I needed her to understand the flame that ignited within me. "If something happens, just be careful," she implored, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. They reflected pieces of an unspoken history that we shared. I nodded, swallowing the lump lodged in my throat, then turned away. Moving quietly, I slipped through the underbrush, the damp earth squelching beneath my feet. Each brush of the leaves against my skin sent chills cascading down my arms, a reminder of the thin line between safety and the unknown. That I crept along the edge of the clearing, each heartbeat thundering in my ears as I panned my gaze through the dark. That's when I saw him, Lucas, pinned against a tree, his hands gripping the bark, the very fabric of his shirt torn in grappling hands. "They're not what you think," he shouted, desperation lacing his voice. The conflict caught my breath, rendering me momentarily frozen as I bore witness to the writhing struggle figures in the shadow, faceless but menacing, suffocating his radiance. "No." I breathed, launching myself toward them, instinct barreling through the volumes of fear that threatened to choke me. But as I lunged forward, a weight knocked me off balance, and I fell hard to the ground, the world spinning around me. "Maya." Lucas' voice surged through the chaos, and in that moment, clarity pierced through the tumult. A glimmering blade caught the moonlight, and I could see the unyielding intensity of those hands that sought to consume him, writhing with intent to snatch away everything we fought for. My instinct screamed for me to get up, but as I struggled to rise, something cold and sharp pressed against my neck, stealing my breath away. "Stay down, or the girl gets it," a raspy voice hissed, the menace curling through the air. "You're mistaken if you think you can hold her," Lucas shouted, his eyes flaring with defiance. "She's not afraid of you." In that flicker of an instant, something flared anew within me, the fire that had lain dormant reawakening with fierce, overwhelming heat. The resolve surged fiercely for him, for my mother, something primal, something unyielding. "No. You don't get to manipulate us. You're just as much a pawn in this game as we are." I breathed, the words a rallying cry, empowered by the fierce need to fight back. But even as the wheels of defiance turned within me, the boot on my back pressed down harder, and my world darkened. Maya. Lucas' voice was a siren, desperate and cutting through the fog enveloping my mind. Just hold on. Let him go. I screamed, emotions swirling into a tempest, battling against the sense of dread creeping in from the fringes. The shadows were trickling towards me, cold and cunning, as if knowing that despair would chip away at my resolve. Just then, revoking our fragile hope, another figure stepped into the lightest silhouette with an aura that felt all too familiar. It was lucent and wrong, stoking the flickering flames of anguish, the shape shifting in the ambiguous shadows. I wouldn't have done this if I didn't have to, it said, voice striking a chord of familiarity that I couldn't place. But trust, Maya, trust is a dangerous play. Who are you? I shouted back, a surge of energy spiraling within me. My mind raced, recognizing the voice like an echo through time, deep, menacing, and laced with the eeriness of a connection I couldn't yet articulate. Let's just say I'm family, the figure replied, stepping closer into the patches of moonlight, revealing a twisted smile. And it seems you've inherited more than just your mother's looks. Each backpedaling heartbeat sent tremors through me, a cacophony of disbelief and devastation that froze my veins. The monsters we had been running from were family, tainted by secrets we'd thought long buried. Maya, listen, Lucas called out again, but the words flickered away as the unwelcome reality began to take hold, crashing down with the weight of 1,000 unasked questions that a million thoughts rushed through my mind. Betrayal, rage, a yearning for truth. But as the reality of the night settled deeper, I realized the battle had only just begun. I had to find a way to disentangle myself from this web of twisted kinship, from the very blood that had turned traitorous against us. As if reading my fears, the figure's gaze intensified, a mixture of pity and malice dancing in their eyes, holding the keys to secrets yet to unfurl. You'll never run far from the legacy that shapes you, and just as those words fell into the abyss, the world began to spiral once more, violet shadows closing in, the echoes of fate whispering around me, threading destiny into our entwined lives. This was more than a fight. It was a reckoning, a decision that would set the course for us all, shifting the paradigm of what I believed to be true in all the most heart-wrenching ways. As the shadows tightened around us, I understood that the fight for Lucas, for ourselves, would lead us deeper into the dark, where truths awaited to unfurl themselves like the petals of a deadly bloom. The night felt heavy, a vast canvas painted with shadows and overbearing uncertainty, swirling with the weight of truths that refused to stay buried. I stood there, grappling with the implications of my mother's return and the figure that bore witness to our fragmented family tree, a distorted specimen of the legacy we'd been unwittingly entangled in. Family, I echoed, tasting the bitter irony of the word on my tongue, reverberating like a curse in the stillness. You took my mother away from me. Each breath I took felt like a struggle against the turmoil threatening to engulf me, emotions colliding in a tempest of fear and rage. You knew she was alive. You kept her from me. It was to protect you, the figure insisted, casting a wary glance toward Lucas, whose eyes glinted with a mixture of resolve and terror over the awareness that the ties binding family could also chain you to a darkness you never asked for. There are forces at play, Maya. Your parents made choices, sacrifices to keep you safe. But the past is a ravenous beast, and it demands its due. Before I could process another word, the tension in the air thickened, and chaos erupted all around us. The men surrounding us had closed ranks, their attention now drawn to my outburst, a shift in the dynamics that pushed the unseen tensions eroding our alliances to the forefront. Enough of this, one of them barked, voice rumbling like thunder mixed with venom. The girl is a distraction. We need to finish this. That single command snapped the tension, catalyzing movement, and in a heartbeat, the threat morphed into urgency. The hunter was now the hunted, and I knew I had to act. In that moment, the flicker of hope ignited by my resolve surged to the forefront. I couldn't let fear fully shackle me. Wouldn't. With a fierce determination burning within me, I blurted something I hadn't meant to say out loud but felt deeply in my marrow. I won't be part of this anymore. I won't let the sins of the past dictate my future. As if propelled by some invisible force, my hand shot out, pointing at the figure intertwined with our family's darkness. You think you have control? You're just as trapped in this web as I am. The words rolled off my tongue, my conviction momentarily stunning those who sought to wield power over our fates. Time hung suspended as the realization struck. Not only was I scrambling for my life, but I was also reaching for the truth, demanding that we stop letting the past rear its ugly head into our present. I felt Lucas's hand on my back, anchoring me, lending me the strength I desperately needed amidst the chaos. Just as the figure's face twisted into incredulous rage, I turned sharply, grabbing Lucas' wrist. "Now!" I yelled, the word a command echoing as if carrying the weight of every unspoken moment we'd faced together. Without a second thought, we sprinted deeper into the thicket, the shadows of the men giving chase, their footsteps echoing like the drums of war closing in around us. Onward we darted, heartbeats racing like twin metronomes, wrapped together in determination as the world around us darkened further. "This way!" I called out, spotting a path veiled behind a cluster of trees, the branches stretching out like welcoming arms. As we rushed down the path, sharp branches clawed at us, a contrast to the adrenaline surging through my veins. "What were you thinking back there?" Lucas hissed, though I could see the flicker of admiration in his eyes. "You can't just challenge them like that." "Maybe it's time I did." My breath came in disjointed bursts, fueled by more than just fear. It was a growing need to reclaim my voice, to speak against the very legacy that seemed intent on devouring us whole. I won't let them use me as a pawn any longer. I refused to be defined by secrets and lies. I could feel Lucas' presence beside me. We were a force of our own, unwilling to cower beneath the weight of history that beckoned us like a siren call. But as we dove deeper into the night, I had no way of knowing whether that bravery would prove to be our salvation or end with irrevocable consequences. With every frantic moment, our surroundings shifted, our branches broke free from the darkness that clawed at us, weaving through unmarked territory that felt both foreign and daunting. "They're on us!" Lucas shouted, looking over his shoulder. I saw the shadows breaking through the trees, figures chasing us down, relentless in their pursuit, desperate to reclaim control over our fates. Desperation gave way to determination, and I felt a swell of resolve culminating within me. "We can't let them catch us," I pressed, my voice sharp with urgency. "We need to reach the road. Well, find help there." Guided by instincts honed through fear, we navigated through chaos, breaching untamed pathways until the promise of the road materialized ahead, an open expanse touched by moonlight, glistening like hope glimmering on the horizon. "There!" I cried out, spotting a glint of headlights flashing through the trees, bolting toward the road. I felt a newfound sense of purpose. This was our chance. Freedom danced just beyond the barrier of discomfort, a cocoon from which we could emerge reborn. But the shadows loomed closer, dark tendrils threatening to snatch us back into their malevolence. That I felt the darkness closing in until suddenly, without warning, I tripped, crashing to the ground as Lucas' grip slipped from mine. The heavy thud of a body behind me sent reflexive terror arcing up my spine. I quickly looked up to see Lucas grappled by someone, strong hands pinning him. As I scrambled to my feet, a surge of panic rising within me. "Lucas!" I rushed forward, my words laced with desperation, fearing the darkness would swallow my heartbeat whole. But before I could reach him, a movement caught my eye. The figure from our past, stepping into the moonlight, face twisted with intent. "Let him go." The words left my mouth ferociously, a shield forging itself around my determination. In a swift motion, they turned toward me. "You don't understand your place in this, Maya. This legacy belongs to us." My voice shook, yet I would not back down. "No. It belongs to neither of us. I choose my own future." Moments stretched like eternity as the thin barrier between future and past narrowed into chaos, thrumming with tension deep within the air. "You're playing a dangerous game," they replied, eyes narrowed, searching for a weapon within me that I had just begun to wield. "But let's not forget this could all end very badly for both him and you." The threat hung thick, yet something shifted within me. I wasn't beholden to fate anymore, not when the winds of change stirred through my very essence. I stepped forward, fire blazing in my soul. "You won't take him from me. You've already taken enough." "This is where our legacies diverge," I lunged, adrenaline and fury colliding within me. But before I could reach him, there came a deafening roar behind us, echoing vast and audible, as headlights surged closer and lit up the darkened woods. The figures surrounding Lucas briefly looked startled, confusion flooding their features as I clung to hope. My heart raced. Had help finally arrived just in time? In an instant, the thrum of a vehicle's engine cut through the tension. "Get in!" A voice bellowed from the road, clarion and steady, like a trumpet heralding salvation. "Run!" I shouted to Lucas, the two words unlocking a moment of clarity. Everything suddenly sharpened, me laser focus blooming into reality as time expanded around us. Lucas fought against his captor, uncertainty igniting in his eyes, but the urgency pushed my voice further. "Go! This is our chance." With my heart firmly tethered to his own, the flicker of faith bolstered my resolve. He broke free from his captor in that instant, filling the space with movement and energy as he sprinted towards me. Together we dashed toward the road, the comforting glow of the headlights enveloping us, edging the uncertainty away, albeit momentarily. As we reached the driver's side of a rugged vehicle, we dove in, slamming the doors just as the encroaching shadows surged around us, their presence unfolding like a darkened veil. I glanced at Lucas, sweat slicking his brow, contagiously vibrant and frightened. "We made it!" I gasped, but before we could breathe, the looming figures melted into the night, their shapes receding like haunting remnants. At that moment, I knew we had ignited something within us that transcended fear, a burgeoning truth that demanded to be uncovered rather than buried beneath the unrelenting weight of our family's legacies. As the vehicle roared to life, I finally exhaled, the sweet taste of freedom mingling with adrenaline. Together, we would uncover the truths driving us forward, confronting dawning shadows confidently instead of cowering beneath them. "Where to?" the driver intoned with certainty, as the rumble of the engine echoed deeply into the stillness of the night. "Anywhere but here," I replied, a new sense of purpose ignited within me. We drove into the darkness, racing toward uncertain futures but finally free from the bonds of our past entwined with roots both beautiful and unbearable. In that final moment of liberation, I whispered what I sensed was only the beginning of our journey. Together, we will face whatever comes next. We were stepping into the abyss, but this time, I felt new, warm, the bond forged through the fire of revelation, unbreakable and transcendent, igniting the heart of conviction within me. For in the depths of darkness, we would become whatever it took. We would emerge resilient, transformed and finally free.